My name is Noriko Masuda. I am the residency coordinator at Medalta here. I make tableware, bone china tableware, but really what I've come to think of my work as dessertware or teaware. I really only make things for sort of those small gatherings after dinner or whatever. Like it's all about sweets, I think. I'm a little bit obsessed with sweets. So yeah. Uh, so this is where I work, the Shaw International Center for Contemporary Ceramics. I came here for 1 year in 2013 and have ended up here. This is my 9th year as part of the staff here. The group up in the top left there, that is, unfortunately, that's last year's group of artists in September. We still don't have a group photo of our artists this year, but there's at least a couple people in there that are here again. So, and then what I did before ceramics, I've been doing ceramics for professionally for about 10 years now. Before that, I was a dental technician, and I find this a very important part of I show everyone this because I see dental technology and making pots very similarly. It's all about balancing function and aesthetics. Teeth, it has to look real, it has to look beautiful and meant to be in your mouth, but it has to be functional. I didn't go to art school. I did a lot of my ceramics learning at North Mount Pleasant Art Center in Calgary. And then the teapot here is one of the ones I made there maybe about 13 years ago or something. It was one of the last ones I made before I left Calgary. And then I used to make little things like tops, and but mainly it was teapots, teacups, and mugs. I did a lot of high fire salt and soda kind of things. And at the same time, I took a program at the Australian National University. It was a wonderful program. You'd get to meet all these amazing artists from around the world: Trudy Golly, Janet Debus, Joan Bruno, Kate Pemberton. And you'd take a 10-day workshop with them twice a year. And it was a distance diploma program, I guess. And that really opened my eyes up to a lot of things. And when I was taking that program, I saw this show it was a retrospective of Masahiro Mori's work. And he was a ceramic designer in Japan, and really stressed well-made, well-designed work that could be accessible. And at the time, Janet Debus was doing a lot of work with Chinese factories too. So I got really interested in sort of industrial ceramics rather than sort of studio ceramics. And so what I did was I decided to go back to school, and I went to Stoke-on-Trent. I don't know why I didn't go back to Japan, but I wanted to go to England, I guess. But so Stoke-on-Trent is very similar to this area here. It's probably a larger version of this area. They had 4,000 bottle kilns at one point, and they were the heart of the potteries in England. So this is where all the ceramics was being made out of England for a long time. And they have a university there, the Staffordshire University. They have an MA ceramic design program there. And I just fell in love with this catalog. And this is the only place I applied to be honest. And I wanted to actually learn sort of more of the surface pattern part of it as well. I'm much more form oriented. I'm not too terribly interested in surface. So I thought if I take this program, I would learn a lot of that. And what they do there is they just throw you right into industry. And so you do you compete for live briefs. So these are some of the examples of what I did. The one sort of in the middle there with the gold and blue, that one was, I never actually made it into that one, but one of my proposals was the one in that top left corner. And it was an interesting program because you just have to do everything and compete with people, professionals and your prof even. So, and another really important thing about this program was that you did internships or work placements. And so I worked with Denby, which is like, very large company, not in Stoke, just outside. But there I actually got to sort of do a mini residency and make work of my own based on their archival collection. And then I also got to work with Reiko Kaneko, who was like the other spectrum of working. Is like she was one person outsourcing everything, so I got to learn that side of things. And so now back after that, this is how I make my work. I design it on a computer. I make the molds in plaster. I use the lathe for most of the bodies and things like that. I carve my spouts. And then I also make my molds. The one in the bottom left is a split mold for a teapot body. And then some more process shots. I get my handles 3D printed because there's less warpage that way because they're more symmetrical, especially the top handles. And then sort of the middle two, bone china is very different from other kinds of clay bodies. I bisque high to cone 12, and then I glaze low to cone 4. And so on the very right, you could see I have to spray all of my pieces. They're vitrified. It's a very awkward process that's really not suited to studio ceramics. So this is the kind of work I make right now. You'll notice stripes are sort of the main theme, but these are actually, these two are actually based on our surroundings here. It was a lot about the sunset, my drives to Calgary and back. And this is another one of my tea set pieces. So you can see a lot of my work is like teapots and cups and things like that. This one's called Paper Balloons. It's based on the Japanese balloons, the paper balloons I used to play with. So, I tried something different. I'm not sure how I feel about it now, but anyhow, that's that. And then a big part of what I do is sort of baking and making sweets. My mom loves to make Japanese confections, and so I've been learning from her slowly. So I think a lot of the times I make work based on how the foods that I make will be presented. And I think that's the same for a lot of us. And I think we were just talking yesterday about it's weird for potters to not like baking or cooking. And so I'm very bad at cooking, but I love baking. And so I think the way I make my work is very similar to where you make, where you bake as well. It's very sort of, I wouldn't say rigid, but it's very formulaic, sort of. And then also that's like, I have a major sweet tooth, so I sort of base all of my tableware around that. So just a couple images of my work in process or in action, I guess. These were taken for I actually have it here, the uppercase book called Ceramics that was out a couple years ago. Or was it last year maybe? And you'll see a lot of Japanese sweets. I think that my mom is probably one of my biggest supporters, but also my biggest critic, and also someone who is very regularly asking me to make things. So some of the things I do make specifically for her. COVID's been really difficult for me, and I haven't made a whole lot, but this is one of the things I've done, is a little set. It was supposed to be for Jeremy Hatch's Canadian cheap shots. I love just no color on things. So I added like the one without the color and then the ones with color. Maybe someone will let me know what they like better, but it's funny. I've noticed that things that are just white do not sell very well. I don't make it for that reason, obviously, but it's just something I've noticed. And this is the last thing I've been doing. Pretty much the only thing I've been doing for the year are these oscillate cups. That's what I've been calling them. They do have a profile on them, and then I put color band on the bottom. So it kind of plays with, there's an optical illusion effect, and I've been really enjoying these. I think there's a lot more color on it because I needed that during the pandemic. So this is what I've been doing lately. And yeah, and obviously you can see I love stripes. Please check out my website and my Instagram account. I do not, I'm not very active on it, but that's one of my goals this year to be. And if I know people are looking, then I will be more active. So yeah, well, thank you very much. Are there any questions? No questions at all?
I can hear everyone clapping downstairs. Which is very sweet.
Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah. I guess there's.
I have a question actually.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate always being around of you. I know how you are working. I've been the one of the very addicted person, the residents in to the Medalta as an artist, Calgarian based artist. And I would like to say something that when you make work around of there, I just wanted to mention this one because there are new residences there. And then I really learned a lot there while I was making myself and then observing people. And I was inspired you many times how to be in the plaster room and how to do. And I would like to say that, not question, but what do you think your work is what kind of contribution contemporary craft, what kind of contribution you do to the contemporary craft? And then
dear.
Is it, I know it's a very deep question, but at least we can just, because I never had a chance to ask this kind of, we were busy or we were pandemic or other things, but I believe myself there is a big contribution to the contemporary craft and design in your work in Canada right now, the level of that, what we learn at the school. And but I know my part, we can discuss about, but I would like to hear from you also that it doesn't have to be answered completely, but I think you are very humble at that, about that concept. And I think I would like, we need to hear also from you in some point.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Noor. You know what? I don't know, to be honest, what my contribution is. I do often find that I tend to think that I don't contribute very much, or I find it hard to know. And I think especially this year, I did really feel like it was hard to know why I make what I do and what it's for. I think there's this, and it's a very important thing that's happening, but and it's always been there, but there's a lot of social engagement. I mean, your work is like that. It's very socially engaged and politically engaged. I keep all of that out of my work. And I've always wondered, is that enough? Like, what I want to do is just make work, make beautiful and well-made work that is, you know, for me, functional work is something that you just pick up and you don't think about. You just use it. And that's what I try to make all the time. And is that enough? I wonder. And I've been thinking a lot about that. But to be honest, if I didn't do what I do, it's not really truthful to myself either. So I do feel like maybe I'm contributing a little bit in that sense of that, just making what I need to make. But I also do feel like my work doesn't always fit everywhere. It's not particularly loud. It's not, I think a lot of people dismiss it as maybe looking a little too commercial. And then there's some people who see it as a little bit too designy, or yeah, I don't know. So I know I've struggled with that a lot. So I can't really give you a good answer, to be honest.
It is a good start as a conversation. You know, it's first of all, I want to just touch one thing that led your less design, Mark. I have also one in my hand, but I find the more I use the cup or the object, the more I can see, actually, you think that you are not that contributing the concept, but for example, this mark, pride mark, is something that contributing the concept, that how it's not indirectly even. It is directly, it's bring up lots of questions. Another thing is very important question, not question, point, that how design is too designy or less designy or too functional. I think there is in a contemporary craft is an art making and design. I think is very important, and also making one object shouldn't come only with the aesthetic concern, but at the same time, it's gonna be part of my life. It carries political point. It's like identity. And I think it carries a lot of contribution. And then please earn it, hold it.
Thank you, Noor.
And also, I'm coming from the background. I just want to say that why I'm asking this question right now, I do more conceptual and installation based, but my training is minor was the ceramic and glass industrial design. I did my BFA in Turkey, and it was only ceramic for 4 years. We immersed technology and everything, and we were able to learn when you make this cup or this container or picture, you have to be able to calculate how much clay you're going to use, how many cups you are going to fill inside. We had all this. Those things are not around anymore. Even you cannot find on the teaching or books or design books. It's so difficult to access. Actually, we have more information. But anyway, it's a never-end story. But I wanted to say that there's a big appreciation and generosity in the knowledge. Just I want to bring that. Okay.
Thank you so much, Noor. Thank you.
Also just want to pass on a message from Ellen in the chat who says, Noriko, your beautiful, well-made work enhances our life when we use it. And I have to say that I agree with that. And I think that functional wear that you come to as a source of comfort in your own home is an inherently, I think sometimes a radical act of self-care. And I think your work is very much a part of that process. And it kind of makes me think a little bit about kind of the act of being authentic, or authenticity is kind of an inherently radical act, doing what you want to do, making what you want to make because you want to make it. And I know it doesn't always like fit into that kind of idea of like, oh yeah, making something really political and explicit. But I think those kinds of objects take up space in everyday life in really meaningful ways for a lot of people. So that wasn't really a question. That was just a comment. So
thank you. Actually, yeah, no, I had thought about a lot of that. And I think I had mentioned that a couple of times. Like, it's in the end, my work is self-care for myself while I'm making it. It's self-care when I'm using it, and also hopefully self-care, a part of self-care for other people are using it. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, when I use your rainbow mug, it brings me great joy.
Ginny, did you want to?
There, I did want to say that I find your work very tactile, even though you talk about it as being designer-like. It doesn't stay locked away in either the cabinet or a mental cabinet, and it's not really that separate from the pots in my house that started out as a gooey something. Also, I went to Ohio State University for graduate school many years ago, back when reading and writing was new. And it's one of 2 schools in the United States, the other being Alfred, that had ceramic arts programs that had actually spun off from engineering. Your work reminds me that it's not just one thing. There are so many different ways to make wonderful, useful things. And you can't get stuck in any one rut.
That's true. Yeah. Thank you, Ginny. Yeah, I do find that's the one amazing thing about clay is, yeah. Oh, you got one of those. It can do anything, really, almost anything, and yeah. I think that's what's amazing about it. So, and I do like how you said it's engineering. I do a lot of calculations for the things that I do, and those are the little unseen things that I think I enjoy doing, and hopefully I'm happy that some people pick up on it. So yeah, so thank you. Okay, we're running out of time here, so I'm gonna head on to Dan, our next art presenter. He is a flex artist. He's here for September, October, and he's from Calgary. And then I'll let him explain, or introduce himself. So if you want to share the screen, Dan.
Okay, you can all hear me, I hope.
Yep.
Okay, just as a little disclaimer, there's one swear word which I've unbeeped in this episode. If you don't want to hear that, just don't listen to the first slide. And I'm sorry that I'm going to be straight up reading everything, but you'll be fine. Okay, here we go. Oh, there we go. Okay, hi everybody. My name is Daniel Labutes and I'm from Calgary, Alberta, and I'm a potter. I'm very excited to be here at Medalta as a flex resident for the next 2 months. Oh Lord, that went fast. Wow, okay, I'm gonna go back. Okay, next 2 months working alongside the other residents and looking forward to getting inspired and motivated by this experience. I began my clay journey back in 2013 when my wife purchased an introduction to clay class for me at the North Mount Pleasant Arts Center in Calgary. Her reasoning for getting me into that class was she thought I would enjoy it and maybe it would take my mind off work, or in her words, help me calm the fuck down. So, oh, is it going to keep going here? At the time, I was a professional chef running the kitchen of a fine dining restaurant. Did my timer stop? Okay. And the work was very stressful and consuming. I spent most of my day doing inventory, calculating food costs, trying to convince my bosses to give my cooks raises and maybe sneak in a little cooking from time to time. It was long days and nights, every weekend and holiday, and usually coming in on my days off to cover a shift for someone who couldn't make it in. I did love cooking, but I was getting burnt out. At the time, cooking relates a lot to me, to making pots. It requires focus and repetition, problem solving, and dedication to perfecting a craft. When you first learn to cook, you must first learn the fundamentals. If you take a recipe and follow these particular steps, you can replicate this particular result. For me, wheel throwing is the same way. Brace your arm like this, apply force in this direction and then this direction, and you'll center your clay. It was relatively easy for me to pick up because of how I learned to learn processes that require repetition and patience to perfect a craft. After that first class, I was hooked. I love how fully present I had to be while making things. I couldn't daydream about what I needed to do the next day at work. Seeing the process of taking something raw and turning it into a new functional object was magical. It was easy to get caught up in wanting to improve my skills when I could see immediate results. I took 3 more semester-long continuing education classes before I quit my job and enrolled as a full-time undergrad student. I had never intended to go back to school again, but there we were. At ACAD, knowing that ceramics was going to be my focus from the beginning allowed me to try other things that interested me or would help me develop skills that could be reflected in my ceramic practice. These are some of my projects that I worked on in school. I especially like the lower left project where I threw pots and literally threw them against a wall before firing them to have them represent themselves as almost 2D objects in a drawing. All right. While I was a student, I was lucky to attend 2 workshops that had significant impact on who I am as a potter today. The first was in summer of 2017 at the Lunenburg School of Arts in Nova Scotia. It was a 2-week workshop called Exploring Alternative Strategies in Clay, taught by Walter Ostrom and Jordan McDonald. The focus was on building techniques to inspire creativity in your studio practice by looking at different strategies of finding inspiration. Walter was an unbelievable source of knowledge, and Jordan helped me to break habits I didn't know I had. Jordan encouraged me to look at the making process in different ways than I ever had done before. He really pushed me to be more thoughtful on how I approached what I was making. He'd give me challenges like throwing a bowl in 1 minute and then ask me why I'd done it the way I'd done it. He forced me to consider what I was doing and why I was making the choices I was making beyond just answering that's how I do it or that's how I was taught. He never let me sit back and do anything easy. He also taught me how to throw a 25-pound platter, which to this day is still the largest amount of clay I've thrown in one shot. Walter would give us lectures on ceramic history and give us feedback and critiques. And he was really good about not worrying about our feelings, and we'd be very direct with his crits. All in all, this experience really opened me up to what could be possible to be as a ceramicist. The second workshop I attended was at the Penland School of Craft in North Carolina. This was I feel like I've paused here. Okay. This was a 2-week workshop all about pictures taught by Matthew Kelleher, whose work I'd really admire. On top of wheel throwing, we drew abstract shapes, cut paper, and figured out how to make everything a picture. Matt taught me how to throw in sections in a way I'd never seen before, which has been really invaluable to me in my time since then. Penland is an amazing place dedicated to all kinds of craft and sharing knowledge, and I would encourage anyone to go there. So ACAD gave me lots of tools to become a better artist and the time to practice becoming a better potter. I learned fundamentals, technical skills, glaze chemistry, and even how to think and look at the world differently. What I didn't get was a clear direction of where to go after. Once I left the structure of school with the classes, critiques, and deadlines to keep everything on track and rejoin the real world again, figuring out what I wanted and what I wanted to do was hard. I'm confident that this is a struggle that we all share or have shared in some way or another. Since I graduated in 2019, it has taken me a bit to get going as a studio potter. We moved houses so that I'd be able to set up a studio in our basement. This required a lot of renos, putting in electrical, plumbing, a new bathroom, new windows, ceilings, and then COVID hit. That was when I decided, with the permission of my wife, of course, to quit my full-time job and to go make a go of just doing the pottery thing. It's not been easy, but the benefit has been having the time to build a body of work, experiment, and try new ideas. Now, I do have a nice studio with a little electric kiln that does a great job with the smaller scale things that I've been making. I've been working almost exclusively in low-fired earthenware with a recent foray into Cone 6 in the last couple of months. I have, of course, been making lots of mugs, as is expected, but I've been experimenting with different forms of vases and planters. While it is abstract, much of my decorating inspiration comes from nature, the mountains, and landscapes in general. My last 2 years at ACAD, I almost exclusively threw my pots on a leach-style treadle wheel, and I really miss it. I loved being able to make my pots in something slow-moving that facilitated a looser way of throwing. I want my pots to have character beyond what I usually get from an electric wheel. Currently, I have an Estrin combo electric kick wheel that is able to replicate some of the loose organic results that I want from a kick wheel, but it's not just built in a way that works great for me. I'm grateful for it, though it does keep me making my work. If I have to describe my work, I would say that it's primarily wheel thrown with hand-built elements. It's imperfect, it's rough, and pretty simple. My pots show tool marks and fingerprints. They lean and are simply decorated. When I began to make pots, I worked very hard to make perfect, smooth, round things. I ribbed the life out of them and they were very tight. I eventually noticed that all the pottery that I enjoyed looking at were the loose, fluid, organic forms that were almost born and not made. So why am I here? What would push me to leave my wife and too many cats and come and work my butt off for 8 weeks? I wanted to push myself away from the small items, mugs, bowls, etc., and try to make substantial pots. Since I only have a very small kiln in my studio, I'm limited to the scale that I can make. This will be a treat for me to expand and take up more space with my pots. I generally only make pots that are easy to understand and having a function, and now I want to make substantial pots that move away from that. When I think about substance, I think about scale and taking up space, but I also think about surfaces and objects with a sense of presence. So I'm going to be using the moon jar and the ongi forms as my starting point for the pots I'll be making over the next 2 months. These types of pots are often made in both large and small scale, and I chose them as examples of pots that'll still represent being a pot, but can also be viewed as decorative and almost sculpture. I'm a big fan of Korean and Japanese pottery. I love the tradition and aesthetic, and I especially love the culture of respecting and cherishing ceramic objects. I'm not trying to be a white guy who makes Japanese pots. I just want to make nice pots that can reference traditional forms. And while I want to pay respect to these forms, I don't tend to stay within the traditional confines of how they're made. The forms are just a starting point that I can have as reference and then move in other tangential directions. I want the pot to almost be the structure that supports surface decoration. Speaking of surface decorations, I've been looking a lot at Akiko Hirai's moon jars. I'm so drawn to the way she builds up the surface of the pot and then layers slips and glazes to create crusty, beautiful pots. They have the appearance of being both ancient and contemporary at the same time, and I want to explore my own methods and techniques of building up surfaces that captivate people. I don't intend on abandoning functional pottery completely. I want my functional work going forward to act as a reference to the bigger decorative pots. Part of the process will also involve translating the surfaces onto smaller, more functional pieces in such a way as to keep the function, but still relate to the larger pots. Making big pots often leaves lots of space in the kiln, so we'll be making smaller functional pots to fill that space. These are some of the things that I've just been working on the last week. So anyway, I'll be using my time here to create big pots, work on building my decorative skills and ways of applying slips and glazes. What I'm looking for from this experience is the freedom to just experiment and try to fail. I want to free myself from the need for everything to turn out. I'm looking to push beyond the limitations of my work to explore scale and what it means to be substantial and have presence. Here at Medalta, with a facility, the variety of kilns and well-stocked glaze kitchen, I'm confident that I can make some interesting things. That's all I got.
And more clapping from downstairs.
Oh,
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Dan. Are there any questions?
easy ones.
I have a question about, I can't remember the name of the maker of these large pots that you were saying looked really contemporary and old at the same time, and the surfaces were really, really textural, and you were hoping to kind of translate some of that textured experience onto the work you're making now. Do you have a strategy or kind of plan on what kind of, how you're going to get to that kind of textured space, I guess?
Yeah, that was a Kiko Hirai. She's a Japanese-British potter. One, two. I have started just building up my surfaces with slip and just the refuse from the throwing procedures, just all the stuff that I pulled off the pots. And then I was thinking about just using a lot of, or making up really thick slips that might break and crackle and things like that, and start layering them up and then using 3 or 4 glazes on top of that. And then maybe the soda kiln. And yeah, so just doing a lot of things.
Can I?
Well, you asked the hard
Go ahead,
questions.
Yeah.
Go
Hi.
ahead, Noor.
Hi. I just want to add one thing. I think it's a multiplied, and also it is there involved with that form that Amy was talking. More unpredictability is coming from mostly multiplied. I just want to mention that it's, how do you keep your authenticity while you are looking some inspiration from other people, work experience, getting involved, because it's a hard part for as a maker, especially in the functional forms. You know, I myself try to keep away, because I really believe that it's which you are doing, that you have in your work, you have authenticity, but can you just a little bit unfold your feelings when you get inspiration from other people when you are making it, because it involves technique, it involves making, it involves everything. And also I believe that emotion involves there also, because we don't want to do that, but we want to get inspiration. I think that part is very special. Just talking about it more than question, I mean, because you are very engaging, and I can see you have lots of emotion when you are making, and how you learn an appreciation and generosity there.
Yeah, I'm really aware of the challenges of looking at other people's work and not just directly copying it, even inadvertently, into my own. But I think there's so much value in just seeing what's available out there, because oftentimes being very isolated and insular, you forget what things are possible. and looking at her work and even looking at like, well, a lot of other people, but it gives you that suggestion that you have the freedom to do a lot of different things that you might not have thought about while you just sit there and look at the mugs that you keep making in the studio, you know, because you can, I think I myself have often think about the customer first and then my own creativity afterwards, you know, and will this sell? So I have to make something that'll sell, otherwise I can't keep making things. But looking around at other people's, what other people are presenting to the world, and then going, okay, well, maybe, you know, these people are becoming successful and are able to put their work out there and people are excited about it. And so taking inspiration from that aspect, and sometimes it's just grabbing that starting point and saying, okay, well, she's making these big crusty pots. What can I do to make something that's like terrifying to look at a little bit? But I don't know, I think it just gives me a starting point, you know, because I don't want to make her work, but I want to make work that relates to me and is exciting for me, and is maybe unusual for where I am. You know?
Strangeness,
Yeah.
attractive strangeness, yeah.
Does that
Thank
answer
you.
your question?
No, it's not a question. I mean, just how do we find there? It's just the defining ourselves, explain, maybe not to explain, but how we connect with our objects. That's, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay, shall we move on to Gracia then? Gracia Isabel. She is, well, she's a returnee actually. She was here as a student resident in 2016, I think. And then now she is going to be a full year resident, yeah, at Medalta. She's originally from Mexico City, but based in Toronto. So Gracia, if you could share your screen and then we can.
Yes, thank you for the introduction, Noriko. Okay, so my name is Gracia Isabel Gomez, and I am originally from Mexico City. And this is the view you will have if you land in Mexico City at night. You will be watching this for around 17-20 minutes. It's a huge, complex city full of culture and, of course, people and wonderful things to do. And part of this complexity is all the broad range of traditional and contemporary arts and crafts. Could be textiles from Oaxaca or Chiapas, could be alebrijes from Mexico City, could be printings and carvings, could be blown glass, etc., etc. So there's a lot of sources of inspiration for me living there. And I like this example because it's something that join very well the traditional ceramics and what the influx, the result of the colonialism when the Europeans came to this continent, specifically to what now is Mexico. And here, of course, my attempt in understanding the richness and complexity of my culture, I have been exploring themes related to colonialism and migration. So if it's true that Europeans brought with them genocide, destruction, dispossession, and collective trauma, they also brought technology and the Boris wheel and produce and many things. So through functional and non-functional work, my recent explorations attempt to understand how colonialism and migration have transformed our contemporary society. When I talk about colonialism, please keep in mind that I'm talking from my perspective in Mexico. It's different, the colonialism, the way we lived there, or it was lived there, to the way it was, the way it happened here. So that's a difference, an important difference. And I am exploring the connections between symbols and historical events stored in the collective memory. When I hand build a large-scale heart from earthenware, for instance, the making, the material, and the form link me to the original cultures in America during the European arrival more than 500 years ago. And I like to relate this relationship colonizer-colonized with a product which became a luxurious item during the 17th century in Europe. And of course, this is chocolate. And if I have done more traditional forms in the past, but now I'm trying to move forward and integrate more contemporary aspects to this making. And my goal is to trigger a personal and collective witness response in each person using a universal signifier that intimately resonates for all cultures. In this case, I'm using the heart form as a symbol, also to remind me the myths of my townhome. And I am showing here a piece that I made in 2018. I was invited to participate in a month-long residency at the International Ceramics Studio in Kecskemét, Hungary, as part of a Canadian group that we went there. I worked there. I made a wall piece using stoneware and porcelain, which is what I'm showing, and using a single muscle fiber that develops through 5 distinctive stages and reaches maturity. It can be a beating heart or fails and become a casualty. I want to stress the right moment in life when we can give up and die, or we can decide to continue. There is always a particular moment where creation occurs, and this is what this piece is about. If you see the little block in the center is a heart, it's an explosion. It could be the birth of something, or it could be just the end of something. And I want to explore this particular choice we all have in life. And this piece is about probably a little bit more than a meter wide, just for you to have an idea. And this is another piece I want to show. In 2019, I was invited to participate in a community project hosted by the Gardiner Museum. It was called the Sin Fronteras Monarch Butterfly Project, a flight path without borders. And in this case, I am exploring human migration, monarchs migration, but also this relationship we have, Canada, Mexico, yes, people, but also many species traveling, and monarchs is one example, but there are many others that I may be exploring during this residency. Living in Canada, I want to explore these species, the travel of the trip these species make between our countries. And of course, that includes people like myself. Here I am using earthenware with additions, oxides, stains, and porcelain. With these paths, maybe you saw at the beginning, well, with the first picture, there were some footprints, as you can see that in pre-Columbian codex, meaning the moving of people is the way they used to express that. They didn't use letters as we do. They used to use kind of drawings and symbols to communicate in printed traditional paper. So this is the piece trying to speak about movement and all the possibilities we can have. And finally, I want to speak about something that has become very important to me.
In the first season, I was really intimidated by the technology. Because of life, I was so terrified. I'm very scared. If I did something wrong, it would be very embarrassing. But more I fought, and more I think I have a role to play in this symphony. Because if all the artists just work individually and did not really communicate with each other, we are lacking the strength. But right now, Gracia set up such kinds of wonderful platforms, and we can talk about not commercially, not officially, technical artist talk. For me, it's a heart-to-heart sharing. Because to me, you guys are
certainly winning the Sadie Brooklyn, right? That was an award that was like the Governor General Award. And that was such a boost to my morale, right? Because I am just like you, wandering around in the darkness, trying to do the best I can. And if you do win something like that, then that means that other people have thought that you have value and that your work is valuable. And I guess that was quite wonderful to have that happen to me and to feel that other people believed in my work. I had grand ideas that maybe I would get a gallery that, you know, could sell my work and it would be wonderful from then on. But that didn't really work. That didn't help. I don't think that the award gave me any more successes as far as galleries go or anything like that. But it certainly was a wonderful thing for myself, for my ego, for my sense of self-worth. I want to admit that I was very worried about this talk. And to see myself on the whole time was very hard for me. I thought I would have a terrible time. But actually, it's been a wonderful experience, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I've really been honored to be able to do this, and hopefully it's been something that's helpful for some of you. But thank you, Gracia, and thanks for the whole process. It's a big learning curve for me. Wow. There's some wonderful comments. Thank you for really making me want to.
I think that's it. I couldn't explain that one, but it's a project that I've been involved lately. I started during the COVID lockdown last year, and if you can join that would be wonderful on Instagram, Play Voices. And it's something I decided to share those little moments because I think they resonate with everybody. I think it's important to be together as artists, and it's something that is very important for me at this point, and I will continue working on that. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Gracia. Are there any questions for Gracia? No.
Again, there was more clapping downstairs. I'm sure you all heard it.
Yeah, Heidi? You unmute.
I was just wondering if you have a project in mind for the year, like a goal that you've set for yourself, or if you just, yeah, that was my question.
Thank you, Heidi. I like to explore. I don't think I like to do something particular. The few examples I show you, you could see I do some functional work, but I also try to learn a little bit about non-functional. So first of all, I want to just be free, and maybe my goal is just to free myself during this great opportunity to be here and don't be concerned about the making and the tightness and the precision, because it's something that always is in my mind. It takes me a lot of time in the making, and I think it's a personal exploration through clay about freeing myself of thoughts, of conditions, of limitations. And I want to be able to express myself in a selfish way without being concerned about selling the work or make useful things or be successful. I think. I hope that answers the question. I do have a project. I do have several ideas, maybe 10 ideas. I'm going to start working on maquettes, and then I will find a way to go through them to choose the best possibility for me, and then is what I'm planning to develop. But I don't, at this point, I have many, well, few options. I don't have something particular that I know I will be working on. I have ideas. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Gracia. I think, yeah, I hope that's what Medalta is about for everyone. I think Dan mentioned it too, is like, there are no limitations for our residents here. They could do whatever they want or need without the worries of sort of like real life or whatever parameters that we tend to put on ourselves as well. So yeah, I hope you guys are successful in just, yeah, being free of all those limitations. So anyhow, we are almost out of time. So if there's another quick question, we can maybe get one in there, but then otherwise, I think we're coming to the end here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Is there anyone with a question? Nope.
Well,
okay.
Can I just interject real quick?
Yes.
I feel like maybe I'm just kind of putting this on everyone, but it feels like a consistent thread or something that's kind of come up in each of your talks today was how we all approach authenticity and what that kind of means in regards to our own practice and our relationship with the material that we work with here in the studio every day. So I'm really interested to see what you all make and do and explore during your time here. And yeah, hopefully Medalta is that safe space for you guys to make and experiment and play and succeed and fail and everything in between.
Thank you, Amy.
I like it.
Well, we've got 1 minute left, so just in case we get booted off here, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We will be doing these next Friday and the Friday after as well, the same length, and we'll be featuring our other artists here. We've got a lot, so we'll be doing them throughout the year, actually, just and we'll post them on social media, and I'll also send out emails again to our alumni and things like that. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone. It's really good to see a lot of familiar faces and names, and I hope the Medalta family just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So anyhow, thank you, everyone. I think we're out of time now, so bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.